ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 27, Attack by Chandavega on the city of Puranjan. We are at text 9, so we are in the middle of the purport. Yeah, please continue.
Thus the field of action and reactions by which one's descendants are increased begins with sensual life. Puranjana increased his whole family by begetting sons who in their turn begot grandsons. Thus the living entity, being inclined towards sensual gratification, becomes involved in many hundreds and thousands of actions and reactions. In this way, he remains within the material world simply for the purpose of sense gratification and transmigrates from one body to another. His process of reproducing so many sons and grandsons results in so called societies, nations, communities, and so on. All these communities, societies, dynasties, and nations simply expand from sensual life. As stated by Prahlad Maharaj, Yana Maithunadi Grahamedi Sukham Hi Tucham. Bhagavatam 7.9.45. A Grahamedi is one who wants to remain within this material existence. This means that he wants to remain within this body or society and enjoy friendship, love, and community. His only enjoyment is in increasing the number of sensual enjoyers. He enjoys sensuality and produces children, who in their turn marry and produce grandchildren. The grandchildren also marry and in their turn produce great grandchildren. In this way, the entire earth becomes overpopulated, and then suddenly there are reactions provoked by material nature in the form of war, famine, pestilence, and earthquakes, etc. Thus, the entire population is again extinguished simply to be recreated. This process is explained in Bhagavad Gita 8.19 as repeated creation and annihilation, bhutva bhutva praliyate. Due to lack of Krishna consciousness, all this creation and annihilation is going on under the name of human civilization. This cycle continues due to a man's lack of knowledge of the soul and of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Further, Srila Prabhupada explains that how these actions and reactions take place because of the activities of the living entity, especially the activities in the realm of uh, the sensual life. Then there are children, and one is implicated by the actions of children. Of course, that doesn't mean we should not have children. In fact, Bhagavatam is other opinion. And especially devotees, devotee community has to increase in a big way. Even Sanatan community also has to increase in a big way. So this has to be understood with a context actually. So we are discussing the Varna Sankara population. So whenever there is, the Varna Sankara population, the one is implicated by those actions, right? And then there is further grandsons, great grandchildren, and one is implicated by all these things. And similarly, when one of them becomes devotee of the Supreme Lord, just like one is implicated by the actions of sons and grandsons, similarly, one is liberated by the actions of sons and grandsons. And therefore, it is said the greatest benefit we can do to our ancestors is by becoming Krishna Bhakta, a devotee of the Supreme Lord. And it is said that actually that when somebody becomes a devotee of the Supreme, literally one's Purvaja is showering so many blessings because they know there is a hope now to be liberated from the bondage that they are existing in, right? And these activities lead to overpopulation, Prabhupada writes. And when there is excessive, uh, you know, actions and reactions, there are wars and other famines, earthquakes, and so on and so forth. And again, everything is destroyed, and the creation and destruction continues. Bhutva bhutva praliyate. There is constant. All this happens due to the lack of the spiritual identity and the relationship with the Supreme Lord. Text 10. तेषु तत् रिखा रिकहारेषु गृहकोशानुजीविषु निरूढेन ममत्वेन विषयेषु अन्वध्यायत. Translation.
Translation. These sons and grandsons were virtually plunderers of King Puranjana's riches, including his home, treasury, servants, secretaries, and all other paraphernalia. Puranjana's attachment for these things was very deep-rooted. Purport. In this verse, the word Rikta Hareshu, meaning plunderers of wealth, is very significant. One's sons, grandsons, and other descendants are ultimately plunderers of one's accumulated wealth. There are many celebrated businessmen and industrialists who produce great wealth and are highly praised by the public, but all their money is ultimately plundered by their sons and grandsons. In India, we have actually seen one industrialist who, like King Puranjana, was very much sexually inclined and had a half dozen wives. Each of these wives had a separate establishment that necessitated the expenditure of several thousand of rupees. When I was engaged in talking with him, I saw that he was very busy trying to secure money so that all his sons and daughters would get at least 500,000 rupees each. Thus, such industrialist businessmen or karmis are called mudhas in the Shastras. They work very hard, accumulate money, and are satisfied to see that this money is plundered by their sons and grandsons. Such people do not want to return their wealth to its actual owner. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 5.29, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram. The real proprietor of all wealth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the actual enjoyer. So-called earners of money are those who simply know tricks by which they can take away God's money under the guise of business and industry. After accumulating this money, they enjoy seeing it plundered by their sons and grandsons. This is the materialistic way of life. In materialistic life, one is engaged within the body and deluded by false egoism. Thus, one thinks, I am this body, I am a human being, I am an American, I am an Indian. This bodily conception is due to false ego. Being deluded by false ego, one identifies himself with a certain family, nation, or community. In this way, one's attachment for the material world grows deeper and deeper. Thus, it becomes very difficult for the living entity to extricate himself from his entanglement. Such people are graphically described in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 16.13 to 15 in this way. Prabhuji, could you please read?
Yeah. इदमद्य मया लब्धम् इमं प्राप्स्ये मनोरथम् इदमस्तिदम् अपि मे भविष्यति पुनर्धनम् असौ मया हतः शत्रुर्हनिष्ये चापरानपि ईश्वरोऽहम् अहं भोगी सिद्धोऽहं बलवान् सुखी आढ्योऽभिजनवानस्मि कोऽन्यस्ते सदृशो मया यक्षे दास्यामि मोदिष्य इति अज्ञानविमोहितः.
Thank you. The demonic person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemy will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. In this way, people engage in various laborious activities, and their attachment for body, home, family, nation, and community becomes increasingly more and more deep-rooted. Hare Krishna.
The sons and grandsons were virtually the plunderers of King Puranjan's riches. Okay, so it's a very graphic explanation, and including his home, treasury, servants, and other paraphernalia. And Puranjan's attachment for all these were extremely deep rooted. Again, now we have to know the context. The whole discussion is going with the context of Prachina Barihishat, and Narad Muni wanted to detach Prachina Barihishat from the whole activities, that now he should at least retire, hand over the kingdom to his sons, and take to spiritual life more seriously. So the word here is Riktahareshu, the plunderers of the wealth, right? So if, I mean, here it is, person works extremely hard, and what happens ultimately is that the wealth is transferred over, right? And here in this case, if the progeny is not dharmic progeny, if the progeny is not interested in the activities of dharma, and ultimate dharma is Krishna consciousness, then what happens is that one is actually working for something and somebody which is like, the for one's own destruction. One is working hard to create a property, and then when that property is misused by the progeny, sons and grandsons and great grandsons, one is implicated, right? Classic example is that Porsche car hit run case in Pune. The person worked very hard so that his son can afford Porsche before he, attains even age of 18, adulthood. And he ran, and the father is in the jail, right? So he worked hard to earn money, and when the money is handed over immaturely to a dharmic son, what happens is one is further implicated. The very tragic and classic example of all this is Raymond's, right? So this Vijayabat Singhania, and they may have some internal things that we do not know, but what is in the public domain is that property of like 5 billion US dollar, 35,000 crores, more than that now. Dollar has appreciated a lot. He handed over to his son, and the son then kicked out the father. And the father was, till his death, he was living in the rented house, always cursing the son. But the son ensured. So Marathi, there is one drama, which is called as Nata Samrat, and there is something like very similar things keep happening in that Nata Samrat drama. And then there is a very beautiful statement in Marathi. So it is said that माणसाने जेवायचं ताट द्यावं पण बसायचा पाठ देऊ नये. Okay. I don't know how you translate in English. So the point is, and of course, when we take the wealth seminars and everything else, we always tell people that one wholeheartedly loves everybody, but at the same time, love should not be blind. Okay. So such a person who works extremely hard only for the sense gratification and the products of sense gratification is called as mood. Prabhupada counts, his own experience, that he was meeting an industrialist who had 6 or more wives and dozens of children, and he wanted everybody of them to have at least 5 lakh rupees. 5 lakh rupees in 1970s is a phenomenal amount, right, for each of them, and thus he was working extremely hard. And such people, they do not realize that actually, there is a limit how much we can take care of people. The ultimate taking care is done by the Supreme Lord. Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Surudam Sarvabhutanam. So the Surudam Sarvabhutanam is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when we excessively take care of the people, maybe we are under the another, very subtle Mayavad, thinking that I am Krishna for somebody. That doesn't mean we become irresponsible. That doesn't mean that we don't take our responsibilities seriously, or we stop loving our, but everything has a limit, and that one has to realize. Prabhupada says those who are earners of the money simply knows the trick by which to plunder the wealth of the Lord. Ishavasya Idam Sarvam, the Ishopanishad principle. And therefore, one should earn money. How much we should earn money? We should earn money without compromising our Krishna consciousness. This is very important. And progressively so, as we age towards 50, 55, 60, so on and so forth. You know, the, I mean, you know, the, it is very important that spiritual life should not be hampered by the activities of earning money. And by the virtue of earning money and having a facility, it should facilitate our spiritual life as well. Right? This is very important part of earning money. And then Srila Prabhupada further describes that how the Muda thinks, from the 16th chapter. Prabhupada says it's graphically described in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that I have this much of wealth and I will like this much of money and more in the future. Who is my enemy? I'm just killing one after another. I'm destroying them. I am the Lord, I am the master, I am the enjoyer. Iti ajnana vimohitah. And this is how the person who is deluded by ignorance, he thinks. And thus he is engaged in various laborious activities. Once I was talking to builder, and I said, yeah, you make one building and, such a huge building you are making. It is like, this, you must have made at least 20 CR in this building. I said that much more than that. Your limit is 20 CR, but I made more than that. And then he said that, but the kind of, stress I take in these activities. And then suddenly one another builder had died. I mean, a builder of this Gagan Unnati, that Gagan builder, one of the founding Gagan builder had died, or some Unnati person had died that time, suddenly, at the age of 60, 62. So I was talking to him. And he said that because they take so much of pressure of the business, their general lifespan is lesser than 15 years. If the normal person will live for 75, 80 nowadays, these people will live for only for. So this iti ajnana vimohita, right? And therefore, the money that we earn should be quite stress-free. It is very, very important. If there is excessive stress in earning the money, then progressively, eventually, slowly, step by step. Okay, these are always the 4 adjectives that we want to keep. One should think of changing over the business. If you are the master of your timetable, if you are a businessman, then you should dictate your timetable. Then you should have enough time for Krishna, enough time for chanting japa, not that enough time to sleep, enough time to take care of the body, right? So otherwise, under a different garb, we are also iti ajnana vimohita. And this was the condition of Puranjan, very graphically explained here. Text 11. Ije chakratur ghorairi दीक्षित पशुमारकैर् देवान् पितॄन् भूतपतिन् नानाकामो यथा भवान्. Translation.
The great sage Narada continued, My dear King Prachina Barishat, like you, King Puranjana also became implicated in so many desires. Thus he worshipped demigods, forefathers, and social leaders with various sacrifices which were all very ghastly because they were inspired by the desire to kill animals. Purport. In this verse, the great sage Narada discloses that the character of Puranjana was being described to give lessons to King Prachina Barishat. Actually, the entire description was figuratively describing the activities of King Prachina Barishat. In this verse, Narada frankly says, like you, Yatha Bhavan, which indicates that King Puranjan is none other than King Prachina Barishat himself. Being a great Vaishnava, Narad Muni wanted to stop animal killing in sacrifices. He knew that if he tried to stop the king from performing sacrifices, the king would not hear him. Therefore, he is describing the life of Puranjana. But in this verse, he first discloses the intention, although not fully, by saying like you. Generally, the karmis who are attached to increasing descendants have to perform so many sacrifices and worship so many demigods for future generations and satisfy so many leaders, politicians, philosophers, and scientists to make things go on properly for future generations. The so-called scientists are very eager to see that future generations will live very comfortably, and as such they are trying to find different means of generating energy to drive locomotives, cars, airplanes, and so on. Now they are exhausting the petroleum supply. These activities are described in the Bhagavad Gita 2.41. Vyavasayatmika buddhir ekehe kurunandana bahushakha hi anantascha buddhayo vyavasayinam. Those who are on the spiritual path are resolute in purpose and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, The intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. Actually,
Yeah, so it's a long purport. We'll read in sections. Long purport it is. Now Narad Muni says, the great sage continued, my dear King Prachina Parishad, like you, and it is Narad Muni is just like giving a big slap, tight slap to to Prachina Parishad. Like you, King Puranjan also became implicated in so many desires, not reactions, in so many desires. So one has to be very conscious of one's desires. And where the desires comes from? Sangat sanjayate kamaha. We suddenly develop a desire, and that desire takes the life in a different direction. And he had so many desires, right? He worshipped the demigods, forefathers, social leaders with various sacrifices, and inspired by desire to kill so many animals in the name of Yajna. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada describes that the great sage Narada Muni here discloses who is this Puranjan. Who is Puranjan? My dear Narad, my dear Prachin Barhishat, Puranjan is you. And Prabhupada says Puranjan is also Prachin Barhishat, and Puranjan is also you. You means we, the reader, I and you. Okay. We are that Puranjan. By the time we are thinking, oh, why is being described this and that, here the disclosure it is we are that Puranjan. So Narad Muni says, Prachina Parishad, he frankly says, like you, Yatha Bhavan, just like you, this King Puranjan was implicated in so many ways. Why? Narad Muni is a great Vaishnava. And Vaishnava is against Jiva Himsa. So here Narad Muni is two ways he is practicing this principle of Jiva Himsa to be avoided. And the one is he is stopping the animal killing. Another is Jiva Himsa means the Jiva is doing Himsa to oneself by not being Krishna conscious. And therefore this Jiva Himsa is, the preaching the spiritual aspect, spiritual knowledge is also one of the activity of a Vaishnava. And therefore, Narad Muni says here that there are so many personalities who are engaged in all these activities. There are so many leaders, politicians, philosophers, and scientists who are trying to find out so many different ways to see. If keeping things aside, if you see what is material advancement, in the simplest possible terms, it means to make life simpler. And we make life simpler by exhausting material resources, right? So we are exhausting material resources to make life simpler, but the end result is life is extremely complicated, right? So now we'll not go in the examples, but one simple example, like, to make life simpler, our life is very simple now. We don't have to follow the bank times. We go to ATM anytime we withdraw money, anytime we, just scan the QR code, make the payment. Just the payment aspect, money, receiving and giving, that has become so simple, right? It has become inordinate. There is there we don't depend on the bank holidays, this and that, nothing. It's just 24/7. With a click of a button things are available. So life has become simple. So much material research and material advancement and material exploitation has gone to make our life simple. But what is the end result? End result is people are being cheated in a humongous way. Like in Pune alone, last 1 year, more than 3,000 crore 3,000 crore rupees were cheated by the cyber scams. 3,000 crore in just 1 year in just one city, that is Pune. And I'm putting a very conservative number. So Prabhupada, the whole point of Srila Prabhupada here is the entire material advancement is to give you the the comfort, but even you are not receiving the comfort. You may have some comfortable activity, but the life has become more miserable if you see the life per se. And this is how Prabhupada talks about the generating energy, and now we are exhausting the petroleum supply. And this is how the activities, they're resolute activities just to increase the sense gratification, but the end result is something else everywhere, right? Yeah, please continue.
Actually, those who are in knowledge of everything are determined to execute Krishna consciousness. But those who are rascals, muda, sinners, dushkritana, and the lowest of mankind, naradhama, who are bereft of all intelligence, mayaya parhata, jnana, and who take shelter of the demoniac way of life, asuram bhavam ashrita, are disinterested in Krishna consciousness. As such, they become implicated and take on so many activities. Most of these activities center around the killing of animals. Modern civilization is centered around animal killing. Karmis are advertising that without eating meat, their vitamin value or vitality will be reduced. So, to keep oneself fit to work hard, one must eat meat. And to digest meat, one must drink liquor. And to keep the balance of drinking wine and eating meat, one must have sufficient sensual intercourse to keep fit to work very hard, like an ass. There are two ways of animal killing. One way is in the name of religious sacrifices. All the religions of the world, except the Buddhists, have the program of killing animal in places of worship. According to Vedic civilization, the animal eaters are recommended to sacrifice a goat in the temple of Kali under the certain restrictive rules and regulations and eat the flesh. Similarly, they are recommended to drink wine by worshipping the goddess Chandika. The purpose is restriction. People have given up all these restrictions. Now they are regularly opening wine distilleries and slaughterhouses and indulging in drinking alcohol and eating flesh. A Vaishnava Acharya like Narada Muni knows very well that persons engaged in such animal killing in the name of religion are certainly becoming involved in the cycle of birth and death, forgetting the real aim of life, to go home back to Godhead. Thus, the great sage Narada, while instructing Srimad Bhagavatam to Vyasa Muni, condemned the karma kanda fruitive activities mentioned in the Vedas. Narada told Vyasa, Jugupshitam dharma karte nushachata svabhava raktasha maham vyati krama yad vyaktayo to dharma iti tara sthito na manyate tasya nirvapanam jana. The people in general are naturally inclined to enjoy, and you have encouraged them to eat in that way in the name of religion. This is verily condemned and is quite unreasonable. Because they are guided under your instructions, they will accept such activities in the name of religion and will hardly care for prohibitions. Bhagavatam 1.1.15.
Yeah. So
Srilan.
here, Srila Prabhupada describes, now there are 4 types of personalities, right? Artho, who surrender to the Supreme Lord, and there are 4 types of Dushkritinaha, who do not surrender. And they're resolute in purpose to enjoy the material life. And these are the, the namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradhama maya aparita jnana asuram bhavam ashrita. Like these are the personalities who are the mudhas. So mudhas, Prabhupada call it fools. Vimudha, Prabhupada calls it rascal. Okay, so Prabhupada's living words. So fools and rascals. Rascal, if you see, it means dishonest man, the dictionary meaning, right? The sinners, the lowest of the mankind, naradhamas, and one who is bereft of all intelligence, mayaya aparita jnana, and asuram bhavamashrita. They take shelter of the demoniac way of life, and Srila Prabhupada very succinctly explained what the demoniac way of life is. Their entire civilization is surrounded around animal killing. Prabhupada says even many religions, at the places of worship, there is animal killing, right? Even in the Hindu religion, there is Kali worship, there is Chandika worship, so on and so forth. Other religions, needless to say, there are crores of animals are killed on one particular day in one religion. Similarly, the other religion. So the entire modern civilization is centered around Jiva Himsa, animal killing. And it is being said that if you don't eat flesh, you will not get, the muscle will not build. To build the muscle, you have to eat the muscle. You have to eat the mass, right? And I mean, even in our childhood, these eggs were made so prominent. Sunday hoya Monday, Roj khao Ande. And I know even very orthodox Tamil Brahmins, Tamil Brahmin families, very religiously they will eat the omelette on, the every alternate day, saying that, yeah, Sunday hoya Monday, Ande, Shakahari, and all that, very nonsensical propaganda. So this is a wrong propaganda. Without eating meat, one's vitamin value and vitality will not be reduced. Will be reduced, right? We see the most useful animals. They are all shakahari, right? We see elephant is powerful personality. Horse, right? A powerful personality. Any useful animal. In fact, I was with my boss one day, and he was just teasing me, "Ye kya tum ghas foods khate ho?" And if he's a boss and you have a limitation in arguing with the boss, and then he said, yeah, you just put up one argument to me, you just say that, sir, see, all the animals which are useful, they are shakahari. All the animals which are the useful means upayukta pashu, they are the shakahari animals. You take a horse, you take a cow, you take a so on and so forth. Of course, then a dog is like midway, both it is. So 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 it is a misnomer that the health cannot be made without. And another example is Virat Kohli turning from non-vegetarian to vegetarian to vegan and improving his performance, right? So one should not come under this wrong interpretation. And then when one eats meat, then one has to drink liquor to digest the meat. And to handle both meat eating and intoxication, will go ahead with, having the sensual relationships outside. And this is how, and to maintain the whole thing, one has to work hard. And this is how the entire material civilization, provided in just 4 lines, very beautifully describes this material civilization, how it is, right? We are just beyond time little bit, but we'll just cover these 2 points. The next proverb explains that all religions have this kind of a propaganda, but this is made for the restriction. But now people say, oh, it is allowed in the scripture, and now they have forgotten restriction, and unrestrictedly they have opened so many meat shops and wine shops. Holy place like Nasik, they want to make it known as wine capital of India. Yeah, what is this? Nashik is known as for the Kalaram Mandir or Godavari or Tirtha Kshetra, Kumbh Mela. No, Nashik should be made famous as wine capital of India. And people may have some miscalculated ideas, but the point is, it is extremely sinful. And therefore, Narad Muni is chastising these Karmakanda activities and condemns Karmakanda in Srimad Bhagavatam. So much so, he is chastising Vedavyas, saying that, my dear Vedavyas, you mentioned in Karmakand, when you are writing the Vedas, you mentioned performing Karmakand is the goal of life. Now, people will, on your authority, people will say, like, if you say that, okay, my counselor has seen this movie, then all the councillors, they like the religion, they will say, oh, Prabhuji, we have to watch this movie now because my counselor has watched it, right? I'm just giving a contemporary example. Similarly, when Vedavyas wrote the Vedas and Vedas prescribed Karmakanda, Narad Muni is saying, even after doing such humongous, huge seva, still you are despondent because you missed the goal. Now people will quote you, they will do sense gratification, and they will think they are doing some dharma. You missed the goal, and he's chastising whom? Is a literary incarnation, right? And he's saying that because under your guidance, they are going to do sense gratificatory activities in the name of religion, and they will hardly care for the prohibition. And therefore, my dear Vyasa, please write an exclusive literature condemning dharma projita kaitavotra paramo, and it should be purely focused on love of Godhead. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you,
Prabhuji.
Prabhupada. Thank you,
everyone. Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.